Good morning, everyone, and welcome into our Friday Fundamental on drawing with SoftPlan. The purpose of the next 45 to 50 minutes is going to be taking you through order of operation, some drawing tips and tricks that you can use with SoftPlan to basically lay your plans out in such a way that is maybe the most efficient and teach you or give you a good springboard for launching into SoftPlan. One of the things I'd be interested to see as I'm beginning to get myself started is you have a chat where you can actually type questions in and so on, and I'll be watching that as we're doing the training. But I'd be interested to know, for those of you that are here, what your experience is with SoftPlan. So if you have a moment and you don't mind, maybe just type in a time frame wise if you've been on the program for a month, if you've been on the program for 6 months. I'm trying to gauge those that would take this kind of an introduction to the drawing, how long you've been with the software, and if this is a fairly popular platform for doing this, then it's something we could maybe roll out a little more often than we do. My name is James Henderson, and I will be your instructor, taking you through this. I've actually been using the software now for 25 years, so I've seen a lot of change with the program, do a lot of help with the development, aspect of things, and as the training manager, help write all of the training curriculum. We're obviously not going to have time in 45 minutes to draw an entire house, but I wanted to show you kind of the direction that we're going. And so the drawing that you see on screen is what we're hoping to achieve in some semblance with this, to get her, as we're going. And as we begin drawing, we'll be laying out a floor plan, which will have walls and openings and so on. We'll even get into a little bit of kitchen cabinet design. From there, we will be generating things like elevations and cross sections to go with it, and ultimately a bill of materials. And it's important to note that when you're drawing within SoftPlan, you are drawing towards a three-dimensional model and towards the bill of materials. And as you do that, using basically our object-oriented drawing software, if you draw with those things in mind, you'll have a more complete model when you're finished, and that's what's going to allow you to generate the 3D animations and some of the other things that you may have seen on our website, our user forum, or our Facebook page. I have started a project at this stage, and so in essence I went in through File and Create New Project, and at this point right here you'll see I now have 3 tabs across the top of the screen. I've got my main floor plan, which is where I'm going to do the bulk of my work to get myself started. Okay, I'm then going to, as I'm drawing inside the floor plan, the 3D model will be generated, and I'll be able to actually draw in 3D and have it flip back to the main floor plan. So the two of those are linked, as one changes, so too does the other. And then finally, the bill of materials, which the moment you draw something in SoftPlan, you're generating. It knows how many studs, it knows the square footage of the veneer that you're using on your wall or the drywall, and through formulas based on the drywall, what the mud compound needed, paint, screws, etc., all of that information. The screen, as you're looking at it, we have a menu bar across the top, what is called when you click on any one of these menu items, the ribbon bar down below is going to update. Below the ribbon bar is going to be the list of toolbar icons, which are single click to a menu item. And then on the left-hand side, we have the navigation menu that we're going to use to get in and out of floor plans, elevations, 3Ds, etc. To those of you who answered the question, how long you've been using the software, we're across the board a lot of different experiences here. So thank you for answering that. It definitely gives me a snapshot of who's in the class. So as we push ahead from here, you're going to see that I'm going to be using a combination of the menu items and also keyboard shortcuts or even icons to get into different items. As I position my cursor over the menu bar and click draw, I'll have my access to my drawing items, and I'm going to select the draw and wall function as kind of the first thing that I'm going to utilize. This list of walls that is here, okay, comes predefined, and of course you can add to this wall list or even modify some of this, from here. But if I were to come in and just say select the 2x6 board and batten as my choice, when I selected that wall, the status bar, which is listed right beside the list of toolbar icons here, will list the wall type. It's going to list things like layers and building options, which we may or may not touch on today. Okay, and everything that I draw is going to be inside the drawing mode for right now. Now, the mode is something to run over this real quickly for you. When you're drawing a floor plan, okay, you picture the old school, which I'm old enough to be old school. You'd put a sheet of vellum down and you'd actually draw your floor plan, and then you might put a secondary sheet of vellum over top of that, and that's where you're going to lay your floor joists out and so on. Well, in essence, within SoftPlan, what you're doing is each of those sheets of vellum is a different mode, how you view the floor plan. So I can literally view the sheet of vellum that contains only floor system items, and then I can also view it from a ceiling perspective and also a roof level, and so on. But each of those layers, or that information, if you will, is stored inside one file called the floor plan, okay? One model, if you will. So inside the drawing mode, I have selected the 2x6 board and batten wall to begin drawing. And as I position my cursor to start, you're going to see a tape measure here about 2/3 of the way across, which I will use in you probably heard the terminology sketch and edit type format. And so what we're doing is we're basically sketching the approximate length of the wall type. This may be different from depending on what your background is, because our strength, the strength of CAD software, is the ability to make quick changes to something. So we don't force you to for accuracy right away on the beginning end of drawing something. Rather, we give you the freedom to modify it on the back end. So in this case here, I'm just approximating a 30-foot wall type or wall length. I've clicked the start, I've clicked the end, and then I simply click the surface side for where I want the siding to be. And as I move my cursor around, once again running it down, let's say give or take 30 feet, and then right to left approximately 15 feet, and then down 4 feet. And you can see I'm just literally sketching this. And as I do, I have a model being generated or drawn over here. I've got my floor plans here, and you can see inside my 3D textured mode, I've actually got a brief outline, if you will, of what I've sketched thus far. Now, under the dimension and auto dimension feature, which I had turned off, I can turn the dimensions on and see basically the dimensions, laid out. On my status bar, I can have the auto dimension automatically, loaded or turned on from there. So as I draw exterior walls going forward, those dimensions will be automatically pulled. Shortcuts that I'm going to throw at you, and if just so you know, if this is your first Friday Fundamental that you've been a part of, we do record these classes. So once I've recorded this class and done a little bit of editing just to polish it up, sometime next week I'll post it so you'll be able to go back and review. They definitely move at a pretty good pace, so sometimes you're scribbling to take some notes and you might miss something. You'll be able to go back and review this video. But if I go to options and what is called enlarge dimension numbers, okay, as I enlarge this and take a look at where the dimensions are going to be, basically more readily seen. And in essence, the keyboard shortcut for that is just simply Control Q, where I can turn that on and off. If you're a new user, and there's a number of you that actually came in and said that you've been using the program for less than 6 months, I want to show you something that I'd like you to print out and learn the shortcuts with. Beyond just clicking on or highlighting over top of various items where you can find out if it has a shortcut, if you go into File and System Options, and once you come into File and System Options, okay, you're going to have an option here that is basically just a listing of your keyboard shortcuts and soft talk commands. Okay, when you click on this option here under System Options, go to the keyboard command list, and this will give you a listing of all of the shortcut items within the program. Oftentimes when people walk onto a show floor, they're talking about learning the software, a question is raised: how long will it take me to learn the software? How long does it take you to draw a set of floor plans? And obviously that's a wide range based on what your learning curve is, familiarity with software, even how many sheets are required of you to put drawings together for a package. But at the end of the day, there is no no doubt that if you learn the shortcuts and you've got your, let's say, one hand on the keyboard hitting the letter A for adjust item as opposed to picking move and adjust item with mouse clicks, you will be faster. So if you print this out, you can learn these shortcuts over time, and you will train the muscle memory in your hand to be able to draw that much faster on the actual plan. And so you will see, for example, I may come in at this stage, I've set up the letter W for wall. I could then pick the 3.5 inch partition, which was quicker than drawing a wall per se, okay, on the from the draw wall menu. Now, once I'm here, I want to go in and edit these actual dimensions. And so I'll simply right click and pick the edit function. And this is going to pull up the edit dimension, menu for me. And so at this stage here, I can just simply type in 30 feet from the keyboard. Okay, so 30 in the foot sign, and hit either the left or the right end to adjust that end of the dimension string. If I hit the right arrow key, it's going to move the objects associated with that end of the dimension line. So in this case, I'll hit the right arrow key, which moves this wall and adjusts or shortens the perpendicular walls to it to accommodate my change. And the same thing, I could type in, let's say, 34 feet here, and hit the down arrow key. And when I do that, it's going to adjust this front wall here. Okay, and so likewise, I can then edit this dimension to 30 feet and hit the down arrow key, and it will adjust that. Now, you'll notice as you begin to modify dimensions, okay, it is possible to give the appearance that extension lines and dimension lines are no longer, attached to one another. Now, as you modify and make changes and so on, a feature that you'll want to run a lot of is what's called a cleanup. In my opinion, you cannot clean up or save your drawing enough. Basically, the cleanup goes through and mathematically recalculates your drawing for you, and the save does exactly what you would think it does. And so you can click this icon at any time, and when you do that, in addition to, cleaning up walls to join to one another, extension lines will extend to the dimension strings that they're associated with. But it's more than just a, cleaning up of the plan in 2D. This is going to look at the three-dimensional model, and it's going to go in there and ensure that items are sitting on top of floor systems, that roofs are calculating their bird's mouth from the correct place, etc. So the cleanup is like a mathematical go through and calculate your entire plan and put things where they need to be, should they, for any reason, during your edits and moves, become, disassociated or in a place that you don't necessarily want them to be. Okay, and then save is exactly that. Now the shortcut for this, again, Control-C, that's my cleanup, Control-S. Learn those two commands quickly because you'll use them a lot, okay? All right, as I take a look at this inside 3D, here is my plan at this stage. Now, I'm going to really quickly run through the 3D viewer, but this little camera viewer here on the left-hand side, as I click on any one of these blue triangles, you're going to see that it zooms my plan around looking down at a 45-degree angle. This triangle right here is viewing it from the front. Okay, moving to the red circle that you see here, this is going to control the incline of the camera to the focus point. Now the key here is that it takes the current view you have on screen, and basically the bottom of this red circle treats that as the current view. So if I click over here to the right side of that, in other words, you would expect this to rotate at 90 degrees while adjusting the incline, and it does. But if I don't move my mouse and click it again, it will once again rotate the camera by 90 degrees and adjust the incline. And so as you can see, as I do this, I'm continuing to rotate depending on what I want to do. All right, coming back to the front here, notice it does not rotate it because it just simply adjusts the view. The blue circle is once again looking at the model from the top down, if you will. Okay. Now the plus and the minus signs on this is going to zoom you in and zoom you out. The left and right, up and down will do exactly that. Okay. And then you can hit the arrows to actually rotate the focus point, what you're looking at while standing still. You're going to basically use a lot of these blue triangles to get yourself where you want to be. And then this one, which is the binoculars, which allows you to select surface to zoom at. When you click on this, you'll be able to click any surface on the drawing, and SoftPlan will zoom that up to the largest possible zoom scale. Once you've done that, you can then hold down the mouse wheel and you can orient or, orbit the model per se on the plan. And so I just hit this triangle here to get out to this 45, then holding down the mouse wheel, I can then move my mouse around to orbit this plan and see what I want to see. Okay, so we're going to do a lot of 3D texture and main floor plan, but don't forget, if I'm drawing anything I draw, I'm getting a bill of materials out of this. And this is something I think that a lot of us need to get used to going to the bill of materials and hitting the print out, because you get a lot of free information right here. Even if you've got a system that works for you, use the soft list end of things to verify or check against what you're using. This 2x6, I have 110 pre-cuts that are on this plan. Okay, if I want to see where that comes from, I can right click on this and then simply select highlight entities on the floor plan. And at this stage, it's going to show me where it calculated that from. All of the exterior walls, it's excluding the interior wall, which is not highlighted. Okay, I can also come in to this if I want to actually count this and change from the mode that I'm in to framing, and literally you can see how your studs are being calculated out. All right, so I'm going to go back into our floor plan at this stage and draw a little bit more as far as the plan is concerned. Draw Select is a tool you will use a lot of. It allows you to select an item such as the wall that's there, okay, and then in this case now, I can just simply sketch or begin sketching where I want walls to be drawn in. And so in this case here, I'm just, sketching, where I want the walls to be. I can always use the dimension feature later, okay, if I want, as far as the plan is concerned. So I've sketched a few interior walls in here, and I'm just going to select the dimension feature now and run the dimension strings across the plan where I want them to be located. Okay, so in this case here, we now have all kinds of dimensions. Again, I hit the Control Q. I turn the dimension feature back to the as scaled dimensions that are on there. This would now allow me to go in and actually edit the dimensions per se where I want them to be. Okay. So, for example, I'm going to work top to bottom. I'm going to edit this dimension and simply change it to 5 feet, giving me the allowance for a bathtub in there. If I edit this next dimension in here, and I'm going to make it 2'2", giving me the allowance to have a closet, that comes in through the door. I'll edit the next dimension working down, and it's going to be 3'6" down, giving me a hallway to enter in from the right-hand side. Okay. Again, working, left to right, I may want this wall here to align with this center wall here. Well, rather than working the math out using the move feature and what's called align to edge, because I'm just simply sketching the design out right now, I could click the inside of that wall there and then click the side or the edge of the stud I want to align to it and have that automatically adjust the dimension for me. Okay, it's a great feature. Use it a ton as far as the plans are concerned. Okay, if I just erased a few dimensions in there, and then using my shortcut key, I hit the letter D to run the dimension stringer. I'd like to have it here for right now. And in this case now, I can actually edit these dimensions, accordingly to what I want them to be. So if this is going to be 7 feet, and then I'm going to edit 3'6" to the left, and that leaves this left over for kind of a quasi walk-in closet, setting here. Okay, and so again, just looking at this inside 3D, we see what our plan is going to look like. Now, I don't tend to draw a lot in texture mode, so I'm going to change this back to shaded right now. And I'm also going to go to options, and inside the setup options, I'm going to turn off the auto horizon so we don't have the grass on there. I'm just basically want to see the model only. Okay. As I'm drawing in the main floor plan, I will do a lot of flip-flopping between main floor and 3D, but I will also have my elevations open. As soon as you have the model, the main floor plan stacked in the model, you'll have the ability to go in and generate your elevations. And so I'm just going through and double-clicking on the front, the left, the right, and the rear. Now this is going to allow me the ability inside the floor plan to draw here and have it show up on the actual floor or the elevations as well. So for example, now that we have some walls in place, let's add a few openings in here, such as going to draw an opening. I can, scroll through the list of openings that are here. Now we do ship with a host of manufacturers, but for today's class, I'll stay with the general option and just simply scroll down to where the double hungs are. And as I scroll this list, I'm just going to find, let's say, a 30 by 60 double hung one. I'll click OK on this, and I'm going to position my cursor, turning on the F11 snap feature. I'm just simply looking to snap this into the middle. Now, snap is located also in the toolbar, so you can, pick that up there. Okay, and I'm going to turn my auto dimension feature on so that as I draw this, it's going to now begin to pull my dimensions off. Okay, and again, I'm going to add a secondary opening, beside it, and then another one here. All right, so we now have three, if you will, openings, and they're mulled across the front here on our plan. As I look at it in the front elevation, I can see that, I've got the openings there. Now, I can do the same thing where I pick a draw select, and I'm going to add another one over here. And as I move around my elevations, or I move around my 3D, I'll be able to draw and add openings in the same way. So here I could pick draw select, and I could add a window over here, something like so. Okay, now for some of you, floor plan is where you're going to do most of your drawing, and so in this case here, that's fine. I'm just going to add, a couple here, okay, and then I may come back to the draw opening and find, something a little bit smaller for, let's say, bathrooms, as well as, kitchens and so on. And so I'll just scroll down and find this 36 by 30. I'll add something in here, and I'll add one in here. Okay, and so that's going to add some of our openings in. The same thing for doors. I can come in through draw and opening, and I'm going to go to the interior door. And in my case, I'm just going to select a panel door. Okay, and so as I, scroll down this list, I'm actually going to, in my world here, I actually have 3 monitors across my desktop, and so I can actually drag this off screen but leave it open so that as I'm drawing, I can then return to the library. Okay, now for the sake of what we're doing, I'm going to do this all on one screen, but I'll pick this 32 by 80 and I'm going to zoom this up, and as I move my cursor left or right of the wall, up or down, you'll see I adjust or control the swing side as well as the hinge side of the door. So I'll simply click and place the panel door in there, something like so. And so we've now got a couple of doors. By leaving this dialog open, I then have the ability to go down and select, if you will, other types of doors on the actual plan. And so you can see I'm now adding, a couple of closet doors for the different closet settings that are going to be in there. Next up, I may go to the archway, and I'm just going to pick the blank case. Now, for those of you who wonder, how do you draw a cased opening? It's under the arches. Here's your different shapes. You can pick them with or without casing. You simply click to add it in. Okay, now this can all be done inside 3D as well. So if I'm looking at this inside 3D, we can see what our plans look like. And I can also come in through the draw and opening. It's the exact same list of dialogues that are right here. I can go to the exterior door, and in this case here, select the entry door. Now I could simply select what the style of door is that I want to use on the actual plan. Okay, and when I pick that and I select OK, I can position my cursor I want to have it drawn and add it to the plan itself. And so now as we rotate around this, we can see all of the the different opening types that I'm using. Okay, so we've done this in less than 20 minutes at this stage, if you take up my little introductory who I am. I'm going to go back to the main floor plan. There's our plan at this stage. I can at any time select my auto dimension feature just to firm up all of my dimensions around the outside, and then those could be modified or changed to what we want them to be. You can even do things like moving or sliding openings along, and the dimensions will update as you go. Editing openings, and for this I'm going to actually go to the main floor plan, okay, to do this. I'm going to do a lot of edits really quick to get this done. But keep in mind, I am recording this. I will update this to our Facebook page, to our SoftPlan YouTube page, and it will also be made available, on our web page. So you'll be able to pull it all from there and watch it. But I'm going to go in, I'm going to edit this window on the right-hand side. And so as I come in and edit this, the product code shows the size of the opening. If this was a manufacturer, the manufacturer's library name would be there. there, and the product code of how they recognize it would be listed as well. The offset is the vertical measurement. I'm drawing on an 8-foot wall, so the top of opening is at 6'9.5" to align it with the top of the door. If I made these walls 9 feet, then I would get into changing offsets, depending where I want the opening listed vertically. As I pop over here to the exterior trim, I'm going to turn it on, and by default, you'll see I get basically a mitered, trim all the way around. So in this case here, I'm going to go to custom exterior, and I'm going to change this to custom at this stage. And this is where you can get in and modify things. Now, because I'm on siding, I'm not going to want to change this necessarily to bricks and soldier courses and all that. I will leave it at wood, but just understand that you can modify that as you see fit. On the above, I'm going to change this to through, and I'm going to change this actually to 5.5 inches. So I'm just beefing up the top, and I'm going to give it actually an overhang of 2 inches. Okay. And that just gives it kind of that cap, that's running across. And so on the bottom, okay, I'm going to do the same thing and just run it through, but we'll leave that even. And so what you see is we're basically customizing the trim on this, okay, as far as the style of, openings are going to be, here. Interior trims can be modified by default as well. Right now, I'm happy with what we've got with the apron and so on, but you could go in and customize that the same way. Grill patterns can be added. So in this case here, I add a standard pattern in there, and then I can go through and I can actually modify what the trim pattern is going to look like, okay, just by running through these. And then once I have a pattern that I want to use, let's say the Craftsman, because kind of the style I'm going with, I could even change the vertical pattern to, let's say, 2 here, and I'm only going to grill the top only. So this is just kind of a very custom, look that we're going for the openings themselves. Everything that you draw, again, you're drawing towards a bill of materials. So, your header spans by default on an exterior wall are going to be 2 2x10s. You can specify and change it depending on where you're building and so on. Okay. Other things include the soft list, which is a bill of materials item, and res check for those of you that are running res check on your openings. That's all I'm going to do with this window for right now, but I'm going to come in through the edit and repeat edit, and I'm now going to be able to click and assign, those same options to these other windows, okay, that we've been drawing with. And so I'm just right clicking and repeat editing these changes as I move around the elevations to have the same change applied. Okay, so it's just right click, repeat edit, or earlier I used the dialog for repeat edit and clicked on it. Either way, you get all of those openings, changed. And in this case here, I could even repeat edit to have the same trim pattern added, and then I can override the defaults on this. So if I want to edit this and go to exterior trim, we're actually not going to have, trim on the bottom, right? So in this case here, I'll just simply set this to 0, and I'm going to go to the display, and I'm going to add in, a cast or brick sill, type pattern that's going to be added on the bottom here. And I may even on the exterior trim, just for the door itself, add something like a keystone and have that applied there. So I could change all of those options, to suit. As we take a look at it, this is our 3D model at this stage. Okay, we've got our elevations, which I've shown you, and of course we have our floor plan. So we're getting through this, as quickly as we possibly can while laying out the design, as we go. Now let's talk a little bit about adding in things like, cabinets and so on for just a couple of minutes. Okay, and so I'm going to create a kitchen over here on the right hand side, and I'm only going to spend about 6 to 7 minutes doing it. Okay, so we're going to jump into the draw option and select cabinet to begin with. And when I do that and I select the base option, this will give you the list of cabinets that you have inside the plan. And so from here, you can change the type, right? I can change it from base to wall and vanity, and then I can change the shape. So in this case here, I'm going to go with a corner cabinet, and I can change the overall dimension. In this case, I'm going to go with, say, 36 inches. Okay, and as I jump into that, I'll then be able to change what the faceplates look like. Okay, we have a whole host of general ones that you can select from, and then you can also even go into specialty type, patterns and so on. Our case, this would work, and we just want a single door being listed, on this. And so I'll click OK, and I'm just going to position my cursor where I want to draw it, click against the wall, and draw it into the plan. And very quickly, we get ourselves a cabinet drawn on the actual plan itself, and now we can go forward from there. Okay, so again, I'm going to pop back back into the rectangular shape now, right? I'm going to pick the 30-inch. I can go to the faceplate, which we just talked about, and here I could pick this option, right, as being 2 doors and a drawer panel that's going to be listed there. Okay, I could also go down if I wanted the recess drawer option and select from there. And so with the 30-inch selected, and the key here is, like I did with the panel doors, leave the dialog open. It allows you to return there and make changes as you see fit. If I go back to this dialog here, and let's say I pick the 15-inch option, I'm only trying to show you a few of the options you could do. I could select, let's say, the 3 drawer panel, and so now I've clicked, this option right here. Okay, and so you could just literally go through and draw this. Now I'm going to hit the Control E, which is explode, which allows me to see the various cabinets, in their individual pieces. And now I could pick the draw select, and I could pick that same 15-inch, cabinet to draw it there. All right, and so as I just, return back to the dialog, 36-inch, drawer and door, because we're going to place a sink in there, and then a 24-inch, and so we've got somewhere to place a dishwasher and so on. You could literally draw each of these out, okay, on the actual plan itself. Now, once I've done this, okay, and if I wanted to draw something like an island very quickly, all right, you could literally just click to add one of these in here. This would allow you to come in through the dimension feature and turn on your symbol dimensions. This will allow you to actually dimension between symbols on the plan. So just selecting the dimension command, picking symbol dimension, I can now edit this, and I can change this to, let's say, 42 inches down and 42 inches this direction, right? Giving us plenty of space, for where we're going to, create our island from. And so from there, I could just, continue to click, where I wanted to add, cabinets and so on. I could even add a secondary island cabinet on there. And so we now take a look at this inside the 3D. This is what we have right here. Okay, so that's our cabinets. Let's take a look at this just with what we've got here, to begin, modification. And things like the window, I can move it at any time. Here I'm just doing it by eye, but ultimately I'll dimension that in. We're going to place a sink here. We're going to place a dishwasher here, and we'll place, kind of a range or something over here, or cooktop over here, right? So in this case, I'm going to edit this cabinet, and some of the features that we've added, over time, allows you to, if I come in and edit this, I can add things like, on the base cabinet where I want to add a sink, a tap, or if you're doing a bathroom, even a mirror over a vanity. So in this case, I can select sink, and from the list of sinks, I'm going to go into the manufacturers down here, and I can then see the host of sinks that are available. The benefit to using manufacturers is that you are going to get, a precise documentation on your drawing of the sink, and you could even then order that per se for the actual project itself. So you can see I'm just going through and scrolling and selecting different items, and once I pick the product code that I want, I click OK and have it inserted into the actual library itself. The same thing with the actual faucet. I'm going to add that to the drawing. So that's just editing a cabinet and modifying or selecting the add sink, add tap to it. In the case of a dishwasher, I can edit the symbol itself, and in this case here, I'm going to replace the cabinet altogether. And so here, I would just go back to the list of manufacturers that we've got there. And in my case, I'm just going to go down to, let's say, General Electric, and we're going to do a quick search to find a dishwasher symbol that we could use, okay, on the drawing. And so once I find the dishwasher symbol, it keeps the box and the countertop, but it now adds that into place on the drawing itself. And so we now have a sink and we have a dishwasher there. And then from there, you would just simply come in through the draw and symbol like you've been doing, and you would then, maybe add a refrigerator. Okay. Our version 2020 allows us to actually go, the symbols and cabinets snap to one another better than they ever have. And so they'll literally just, it's called bumping against one another. And you'll find that that's going to help with the drawing process, immensely for you there. Okay, and then again, I could add a cooktop or something in there. All right, based on just where we are with time, Everything we've done to this point has been inside drawing mode. And so I'm going to change into floor system mode for just a moment. And from here, you can go into, depending on where you're drawing and building, I'm going to click on the floor system option for just a moment. By default, when SoftPlan ships to you, all of our settings are set up for conventional 2x10 lumber, okay, 16 inches on center, etc. Some of you may use a lot of eye joists, and so you may want to change that as your default setting. And then you could change your depth to 11.875 inches as your default. So those are options you can do. Same thing with structural slabs. Okay, we've got our footing thickness and width and so on. So in my case, because of time frame, I'm going to come in here with slab. I'm going to auto trace a slab into this plan, and I'm going to edit that slab and change it to be structural. You will see that I get a footer all the way around, okay, and this can be then modified, if you will, for the actual slab footing, and I could then change the dimensions on that, as far as that's concerned, and even change it as far as individual sizing and so on, whether I recess the wall into the slab, things along that line. To go along with this, I may even come in and need to place some intermediate slabs, okay, or sorry, footers, where I want them to go depending on my bearings, okay, and you could actually dimension those into place as well. So I've kind of set up a quadrant here on my drawing. By placing the floor system in and taking a look, it's going to obviously set everything atop that, so we can now see what we have as far as the drawing is concerned right now. I'm going to zoom this back a little bit, and we're going to place a roof on this, okay? The order of operation is always going to be get your wall heights set, and your wall heights being set includes getting a floor system in there, okay, so that we've got that top of plate height. Right now, these walls, if you edit them, have a current 8-foot height, okay, with a 4-inch offset. If I put a wood floor system in there, the offset would be the equivalent of that. But this is important to set the total plate height prior to putting the roof on, so we can make those changes. As I come into the, and I can do this inside both the floor plan and the 3D, and here's what I'm going to do at this stage. I'm going to right click on the 3D shaded, and from when I right click on that tab, I'm going to move it to a new vertical tab. And so what you're going to see is I now have kind of split screen my model. I've got this over here, and then on this screen, I'm going to have my main floor plan. And what I'm going to do inside my main floor plan is just simply change to roof mode. Now, when I change to roof mode, I will get the outline of all of the bearing walls per se on my drawing, and I'll be able to take a look at the roof options and change any of the defaults to where I want them to be. Okay, so as I change this, it's going to impact this drawing. Okay, so I change the overall roof pitch to an 8/12 roof pitch. I could change the overhang to something a little shallower at say 16 inches or 12 inches, and I can change the heel height, okay, on this to let's say 4.5 inches, so we create a bird's mouth cut there. I can come in and add this roof here, or I can add it in 3D, and the two will talk to one another. But as I pick the auto roof, what will happen in essence is SoftPlan will place the roof on, okay, using those pitches and those settings that we just had there, okay? Now, when you place a roof, each edge is going to have a reference circle, and that reference circle controls the roof pitch, but it also controls the style with which that roof can be placed, and that is important. Okay, as you get into more complex designs, you're going to find that the fact that a reference circle can have one pitch and one style at times may determine how you place your roof. So, for example, editing this edge of the roof over here, I could change that overall roof pitch. So let's say a 12/12 pitch. And when I come over here, I can do the exact same thing with the repeat edit, but it does change it all the way down, both pitch and the style. So keep in mind with that information, if I were to edit this edge over here, okay, and try to change that to be a gable, okay, in the same way I did the pitch, the gable now runs all the way one end to the other. In essence, I need to break this so that the hip only runs as far as where this front wall is. So this time, when I erase this roof, I'm going to come in and place this roof with two different sections, okay? I'm going to do the trace roof, and I'm going to trace this on, which gives me greater control over where the roof is going to go, because I can control it not to, run out to this edge here. Now, when I place this roof, again, drawing with SoftPlan, here's a lesson. As you're taking a look at the roof, all right, you want to notice these reference circles. Did they reference a wall? And in my case, this one does not. And because it does not, you'll notice that I actually get, a bit of a hollow section there. Okay, this allows me to come in using the adjust item feature now, and I can actually select this reference circle here. And when I do that, I'll be able to, adjust that edge to the wall and thereby create the full roof. Okay, not having it hollow, so to speak. It builds the overhang, and then frames the roof, sheathing in from there. I could then edit this roof and I can modify this. Okay, and I could change it to be a gable. Okay, and so we see that we have that there, and then I could do the same thing over here, and the gable now only runs to that front plane. Okay, this would allow me to now come in using the draw, trace roof, and I'm just going to trace where I want a secondary roof to tie into it, and SoftPlan automatically does that for me. I would then be able to right click, and this time instead of going to edit edge and checking the gable style, I'll just simply select apply gable to apply that on there. Now this roof I may want to change it a little bit different from the rest, and so I'm going to assign it a slightly steeper pitch, and so I'll just simply do a repeat edit to get ourselves a fairly steep pitch on there. And again, as you take a look at your elevations, right, you're going to see how this begins to, bring the focus to a much more, appeasing roof right there. Now you can actually modify and change from the elevations as well. So for example, I can edit this roof edge from here in the elevation, and this is where I'm going to come in now and begin to add things like, let's say, a gable frieze board underneath there. I may come in and add an accent truss. This was a new item that was added, into this version of SoftPlan, and from that attic truss you can actually specify the dimensions. And so in this case here, I might make it a little bit larger, and so we get something a little more robust on there. All right, so we've got our frieze board in the gable end. We've added kind of the gable end truss that's there. And so as I go to the left elevation, I could do the same thing where I'm just going to add the gable end truss on the end as well as the frieze board. And so as I just pop between elevations and view what they're going to look like, okay, I'm just assigning that as we go. And of course, I can always change the color of this. All right, so as we get into towards more of the finishes in the next 10 minutes for this, that's where you will assign color changes and so on. Okay, so as I go back to my main floor plan, in the first 35 minutes or so, we have added ourselves in, a floor plan. We've added a roof on here. We've got some walls into play and edited some of those dimensions. Okay, and so as we get set to add some interiors, because as we take a look at this, if I were to zoom to surface and we're just going through the window right now, okay, you'll see that we've obviously got there's our roof. And then we've got, kind of just a blase concrete slab and nondescript walls, no ceilings, nothing like that. So inside the main floor plan, I'm going to change into what is called room mode. Now, what room mode does is it allows you to go in and add packages to the plan itself. Okay, so as you select room, for example, I could select bedroom number 1, and I could click inside this room. And when I did that, as I edit this, it added in, besides just the label and shading that in, it added baseboard, it added flooring, okay, it added a ceiling, okay, and even a material on there of how the finish is going to be, and then I can, paint that and so on. Okay, so I could go back into here and I could select, let's say, family, and as I select the auto trace, because this is one large room, it's going to fill in that entire block. Had I done the manual trace, I would then be able to break these two rooms up, something like so. Now, as I do that, I'll be able to edit this. Okay, and again, the same thing. So for example, on flooring, I'm going to change this to hardwood, so we're running that all the way through. And as I do that, it's going to change the model. Now this is where I'm going to come in through, I'm inside shaded mode right now on the 3D. I'm going to go to options at this point and mode options, and on the face, I'm going to turn the textures on. Okay, now this is still in shaded, which will generate quickly, but it allows me to see, some of the textures of the bitmaps that are being used. So again, as I edit this, I can see that's a textured ceiling. If I want to change that to, let's say, painted, I'll be able to do that on the actual plan itself, and that's going to turn it to be painted. Let me pop this back to full screen for just a second so you can take a look at the full 3D. Okay, this is where we're going to be able to change some items. Like, for example, if I do a surface edit on this, these are our standard textures that come with the software. They work just fine. But as you get into the manufacturers, and specifically the SoftPlan Plus textures, now you're using actual bitmaps or images from the manufacturers. They're very high quality. They turn out extraordinarily well on your images and so on that you're generating for 3D. Okay, and you can just see the difference in the options that are going to be there. So as I begin to modify this, I can then, so I've changed my hardwood. I'm going to do a surface edit on the wall here, and in this case, I can select from the color swatches from the manufacturers that are there. So I'll go to Sherwin-Williams. I just happen to be more in the know with their colors. And at this stage, I can then select, a color that I want to use on the walls. The cabinets, I could then edit. So we're getting into finishes, right? And I'm going to change this to be painted, for example. And as I do that and repeat edit the changes, we can see I've now got the white cabinets to go with the gray wall, okay, to go with the hardwood that's right here. Okay, so all of that is just being done, inside the interior mode itself. And so as I come back to, to the plan right here, okay, that's all controlled from within room mode. So you could very quickly go in through, I could just do a quick search for hall, and I could do an auto trace to get that. I could go back to the closet for bedroom number 1 and add it in there. And this ultimately would have been a bathroom, although we don't have time to finish that and have all of the finishes done there. Okay, and so I will, add another closet in there, something like so. Okay, so the benefits to this is when I'm in this mode, I could then go to camera, go to room, and take a look at the bedroom, okay, master bedroom, and it's going to take me inside the bedroom. You'll see it's added the electrical, painted the walls, added a light texture there. So that's our floor plans. We've got our elevations at this stage, okay, that we're working with. And ultimately, we would want a section, and then we want to post these on some borders. And that's where I'm going to spend the last 10 minutes of our class, is getting all of that done. All right, so using my surface copy and paste, I'll paste the white onto there just to kind of finish that out. And then I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to, paint the siding white, as far as, getting it for its finish. So as I come into the main floor plan, okay, I'm going to go to model, and I'm going to go to the section line. All right, and on the section line, I could just simply click to start, run it through the plan, click to finish, okay, and then what direction I want it to view in. And if I do this inside the drawing mode, you'll see I get cut line A. If I go to model, section polyline, and I were to, simply, click to start, run it down here something like so, and I want to, run it in that direction, and then down something like so, and then I'll right click. It allows me to tier the section line through. Okay, as I come over here to the model, I'll be able to take a look at section letter A and the information that's been generated thus far, and section letter B and the information that has also been generated thus far. If I didn't put roof framing in, I shouldn't expect to see it. So inside the main floor plan, as I change into roof mode, for example, I can come in through framing. From here, you can add your rafters and or trusses. So in this case here, let's just say I'm going to, truss this roof. So it's just simply I'm drawing in the gable end truss from here to here. Okay, and then from framing, I can select the truss set, click to start, run the cursor down, and click to finish. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but there's just a lot of information in there that you'll want to get done, so you get a accurate cross section. So I changed the overall spacing to, the 24 inches, and as I come back into my cross section B, you'll see now I get my actual trusses on the plan itself. Inside the main floor plan, if I just wanted to stick frame something, I could auto stick frame this front, model here. And something I want to show you is if I do that, at this stage now, I may come down to under the navigation, under 3D framing. I'm just going to double click on the shaded for a moment. And as I do that, you'll see that I get my framing, model of what I've drawn to date. Okay, so all of that is being calculated as part of our plan, and of course it's in our bill of materials. So that gets some of our framing in, that's some of our cross sections, and of course we've got our elevations. And so the last thing that I will send you off with today is setting up with what is called a plan set. Plan sets is your ability to get it on the borders. I'm going to show it to you with floor plans and a couple of elevations, and then we'll complete the day today. So I'm going to right click on add plan set. And as I click in here, I can name this anything I want. So today will just be Friday Fundamental. Okay, for our plan set name. I'm going to scroll down this list here and I'll select Architectural D. It pulls out the sheet size, and when I click on my border, I'll be able to scroll down and find what the size of border is that I want to use. And so in this case, it'll be a 24 by 36 Architectural C or D. If I want to go in, I can select water, marks on here. So if you're giving a preliminary only plan to the client, then you may want that on the actual drawing itself. So to begin with, let's start with the main floor plan. Okay, we'll do this fairly quickly. We'll click OK. It pulls up my border information. There it is. And in this case here now, I can actually, from the list or from the drawing, drag the floor plan onto the screen. It remembers what mode this was in, so I can actually edit this, for example, and change this to drawing mode. And the scale, it automatically is, shows it there, and I can change the scale to whatever size I would like this to be. And so in this case here now, I've modified this to be a 1/4 inch scale, for my drawing on the sheet size. Okay, again, I can also move the label. Now this is where, things, I'm going to show you a few other things. So I could, save this, and I'm going to drag the main floor plan in one more time. And this time I will leave it inside roof mode. So I can actually show the roof framing that's going to be, displayed on here. Okay, I'll change it also to the 1/4 inch. All right, so that we've actually got, the floor plan loaded twice with that on there. Okay, now let me take you back to the main floor plan real quick. You remember I added the kitchen cabinets in here. Let's just say for a second I wanted to go to mode and interior elevation. I'm going to generate one interior elevation here and one right here, okay, of the actual cabinets itself. Okay, so they are going to be listed over here on the left hand side, and as I generate these, just to show them to you, I will get there's my one elevation, and here's my other, just from my those interior elevations. I can drag and drop those onto the actual, model itself as well. And so as I come back to the plan set, okay, that we've been creating, all right, I'll be able to come in and go to my list of interior views and drag and drop this onto the drawing itself. Now this is going to pull up something I'm introducing for elevations, model and annotated. And in this case here, if I just select model, it's going to give me a 3D representation of the drawing itself, okay? And I can then edit this, and I could change the shape or the scale on this to, let's say, 1/2 inch and move it into place. Okay, so that's my actual drawings. Let's go back to those front elevations for a second. When you're looking at this, you've been working at it in a model. I'm going to change it into what's called annotated. And the annotated will actually pull the dimensions off. It will also allow you to now go in and add notes. Okay, so as you select notes and you select your speed notes, you'll be able to go in and assign or add notes to the actual drawing. So just for example, I'm just going to add a single speed note here to this and add a pointer to the actual drawing. Okay, and so you can type on here, you can add any kind of notes that you want as far as hardy board and aluminum fascias and soffits. But the key here is that this is called annotated, which allows you to add the notes and dimensions to this. I can even go so far as to add in single extension and dimension lines if I wanted to call off what a typical overhang was going to be, etc., on the drawing itself. Now as I come back to my plan sets, okay, so my Friday Fundamental, I'm going to add a new page to this. And so I'll simply pick this add page and call it elevations. And as I do that and click OK, it will add a new border. I can go back to that annotated front elevation, okay, that I had here, and I'm going to drag it onto my actual, plan set border for elevations here. And so in this case here, as I open this up, I'll drag my front elevation onto the sheet. I'm going to show it in annotated, which will show my notes and my dimensions. If I drag the left elevation onto the actual sheet itself, which is in model mode here, okay, you'll see that at that stage it would actually be without the notes and dimensions. So in this case here, the left elevation, I'll leave it in model mode, and as I do, you'll see that it's sans that. But you can always edit this, and change things like what the scale is going to be, etc. For the drawing itself. Okay, so in this case, I've actually scaled it down. So that's going to be your difference on whether or not you want to, as you're dragging your elevations in, okay, if I go to the annotated, it's going to pull my dimensions off. The model is where you're going to do edits and modifications for that, okay? And you can then move these things around, per se on your actual drawing. And so that covers off, we've drawn a floor plan today, okay, which included dropping into roof mode as well as floor system mode and adding some room interiors. We've talked about front elevations and rear elevations and so on, the difference between model and annotated. Annotated is where we think you're going to do a lot of work, adding your notes and dimensions into play on this actual drawing itself. The cross section can also be done inside, annotated mode. So in this case here, I'll change this to annotated. I get my dimensions here, and in this stage, I would then be able to go to notes and speed notes, and in things like typical notes where we want to call out the typical truss roof, right? I could then, click where I want that to go, and using the pointer, add a segmented pointer to this, and then again, you could create a border and add that annotated elevation to the plan. And then of course, we have been doing a lot of work inside 3D, which is what we have here. Okay, to date we've done all of our modifications, inside the shaded. I could then take it to the higher, detailed option of it being textured. This might be where I'm going to go in now under my options and setup options, turn on my auto horizon, okay, and then inside the mode options, this is where I may start getting into customized lighting so that we can actually begin to see the shadows and so on that are taking place with the model. Okay, so you can play around with indirect lighting, the tone mapping on the actual textures themselves, okay, and even things like face options, whether or not you want reflections in the glass, etc., as far as the model is concerned, okay, and as you do that, you're going to get a more realistic image, as far as the model is concerned. That's all that I have for you today. I know we went really quickly through a lot of things, but the entire goal was to try and get you an overview of what you can do with SoftPlan. As I said, I will be posting this to our social media pages, that you can go back and review this on either our YouTube page, Facebook, our website, etc. And so with that, I will dismiss you for today, and we hope to see you back for our next Friday Fundamental, which is coming up in a few more weeks.